All right, folks. I am joined by one of my clients, Matt, today, and really excited to jump in with Matt. We've actually been working together for almost 2.5 years, and when we did a check-in last week, I thought it'd be really cool for him to just share his experience to date, because a lot of the times you hear stuff from people who've maybe done, 8 to 12 weeks in a program. Matt has been doing this solidly, consistently for 2.5 years now, and he's got a lot of really good insights, in particular because a lot of the guys I'm talking to are in similar positions to where Matt was like 2.5 years ago. So I think he's going to be able to share a lot of valuable tips and tricks that's helped him over the last 2.5 years. So Matt, thanks for jumping on today, mate.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. Let's hear a bit about yourself so people know who they're listening to. So where are you based? How old are you? Bit about the life.
Cool. So I'm from Melbourne. I'm 31. I work in IT. So I'm always at a desk working from home. So yeah, that's kind of like a little bit to my detriment, getting those tight hips, but always trying to, I guess, do things to open my hips up. So I guess a little bit about my training history. Probably you could say everything kind of started with being kind of a martial artist. So I've done different types of martial arts. The longest one I did was when you and I met in Brunswick at Urban Athletic called Wing Chun. Shout out to Urban Athletic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great gym, and yeah, took that pretty seriously. I was training pretty consistently, and then I thought maybe why don't I do some strength stuff? So I recall myself doing some ring work, and then you coming up to me and giving me some tips about the rings, which was pretty cool. And then yeah, the rest is history. Like now I've moved on to judo, so exploring different martial arts, and I picked up some new hobbies. So one of them is ice skating. So the goal is to play ice hockey soon. So ice skating was a really, really interesting one because I just thought I had shit ankles and I would never be able to do it. But then yeah, working with you and being consistent, smashing the ice. So it's good.
Yeah, mate. We're going to jump into that as well, a bit more about like all the stuff you're able to do now, but maybe paint a picture about where you were, 2020, 2021.
Mm.
What was going on? What were the challenges going on with your
Yeah,
training with the body?
yeah. So in my case back then, motivation really wasn't a problem. I was training pretty consistently, six, maybe to seven, depending on the days. I was doing my martial arts, doing a lot of hiking, cycling, and then I was picking up some bouldering and lead and top roping with some of my friends who were really good climbers. So just loading the body pretty consistently and then trying to do a strength regime, which I read online with no real, I guess, goal in sight, just lifting heavy shit and thought I was going to get stronger. And then I had heaps of flare ups on my shoulders and then especially my elbows. My elbows was the worst. I used to be in excruciating pain with my elbows. And then I'll try to do some martial arts and push through the pain and then, cycle home. I'll just like a train wreck, to be honest. And then I was kind of using the pain that I was experiencing as fuel to train harder because I thought I was just weaker. So I thought the case was to just work harder and then that was going to solve all my issues. So as I worked harder, I got injured more consistently and then I never rested and then the injuries got worse and worse. And I was seeing a Chinese medicine doctor just to kind of, tune everything up and everything was working pain free for like a week or two. And then I'll just get back into the same old injuries. And I remember a funny thing my Chinese medicine doctor said. He's like, why don't you just take it easy? And then I was really confused. I was like, what do you mean take it easy? Like I need to get stronger. I'm keep getting injured. So yeah, and then we kind of like rekindled our connection again and we chatted online and then yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, man. It's we were talking about this before we went live, like because it's very similar to my history as well. Like I was just constantly getting hurt in my actually or probably around the time we met in Melbourne, I was kind of at the tail end of like just 5, 6 years of repeatedly hurting myself, elbow tendonitis, shoulder issues, lower back issues, all these problems. And it's really frustrating because like you said, like motivation wasn't an issue for you, but it was just a lack of clarity, I guess, about like what's the best path, right? Like, because you were doing lots of different stuff, but then you have a week or two, things are going well, then something breaks again, something flares up again. And it's a very, very frustrating position to be in. So I guess given that that was going on, well, first of all, how long was that going on for? That kind of repeated cycle of getting hurt and
Jesus. So that was probably at the time when I was doing Wing Chun and I was training there for about 8 years. And then I probably like the strength stuff, I reckon for about 4 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just keep going, injury, and then injury, and then injury, and then I'll be okay, and then injury, injury, injury. Yeah. It was rough.
Yeah, man. And then like I think a good thing to talk about as well is when you're in that cycle of getting hurt repeatedly, obviously you've tried different things, so there's going to be skepticism around like, well, you know, this is just going to be the same as previous things. So what were you skeptical about when we were having those initial conversations?
Yeah, for sure. I was definitely super skeptical, just because I heard it all. I was seeing a lot of healthcare professionals. They're like, oh yeah, just do this or do this or do that, and I did it. It just wasn't making it any better. I just get re-injured. Um, but I think, in hindsight, I didn't decrease the load, which was such an important lesson that I've learned now is the load decrease, focusing on rehab and just putting in the effort to the rehab and just taking it easy. Just like what my Chinese medicine doctor said, just take it easy.
Yeah, it's so obvious when you say it like that, but in the moment it can be very confusing. And
Mm,
then the internet, Instagram, YouTube, because like a lot of the stuff you're saying as well around you kind of have to push through.
mm,
Um, a lot of people online are saying that, and they can be a little bit correct sometimes, but
mm.
for your situation, for my situation, I think for a lot of guys' situations, that just breaks things even more,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I agree. I agree. And you just think, hitting it with hard work can solve it because, you just think because you have the volition and like that real drive, that purpose, and then you're like, if I just focus on this, I'm gonna be better. It's just not the case.
Yeah, yeah. It's the analogy I always give. It's like let's use a Australian road. So let's just say Melbourne to Sydney is how many hours is that? Like 8 hours or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So let's just say if you go on the motorway, it's 8 hours. Um, but if you're on the motorway and every kilometer you're like, I think this is the wrong road, and you go down a different road, and then a
Yeah,
different road, and then a different road. In 8 hours, you're still only a kilometer from your destination or from your original place, but you've
yeah,
been in the car for 8 hours, and that is a very common thing with the internet. Is like you're not even sure if you're on the right path at all,
yeah,
which then you're doing everything and nothing's giving you an outcome.
yeah.
Let's talk about breakthroughs, man. So if you were to say like, because it's changed as well. Like we talked, we had you on maybe two years ago now, I'd say if it's been 2.5 years. So
Mm.
like over the last 2.5 years, mate, what would be like the top three breakthroughs that you've had?
Um, I'd say, I guess, injury free, um, becoming very strong, and then, like we spoke about, learning how to be injured.
You want to unpackage that for people because it's not super clear. So really explain that.
Yeah, sure. So, touching on what we were discussing before about using injury as fuel to train harder because you want to be stronger. When you're injured, you just need a different type of mindset. You can kind of use the same tenacity that you use when you were training, but apply it in a way of learning how to be injured, accepting the fact that, yeah, I'm injured right now. And if I push this any further, I'm going to make it worse. So let's cut back. Let's not train all the time on high volume, heavy weights, a lot of reps. Let's auto regulate. Let's walk a little more. Let's get the steps up. and let's work on our rehab. You can get a 1.5 kilo. I think when we started, I was using 1 kilos. And I was like, one
Yeah.
kilos, come on. And then I was doing the exercise. I was like, whoa, this is really hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So just being consistent like that and just learning how to be injured and really giving yourself the space to be injured. Because what I used to do, I used to use guilt and be like, oh, you're not
Mm.
training your week. And then just now I'm just like, well, I'm injured. This is just part of the process. And it's more sustainable long term that you can kind of
Yeah,
keep training and just be a lot more happier with yourself when you just allow yourself space to be injured.
this is huge, man. So, because you've had a few flare-ups as well. So can
Yeah.
you, I think that's going to be super helpful. Walk people through one of the specific flare-ups. I think there was one with the elbow or shoulder and one with the ankle, if I'm recall.
Yep.
But go
Yeah.
through one of them. Maybe tell the people what happened, how you
Yeah.
approached it, and how you would have done it in the past. Okay.
Yeah. So, as I started judo, it's kind of like a new stimulus on my body, and then was doing a lot of reps, a lot of picking up, throwing, and then my elbows and my shoulders flared up, and then I'll just pulsate and like they were on fire. And then I was chatting to you about it. I was like, "Yep, cool. Well, let's don't let's not go to judo for 2 weeks, and let's walk a little more, and let's just do the rehab." And then what we did was doing a lot of scap stuff, heaps of
Hmm.
scap stuff actually, heaps of scap stuff. And then we were doing Zotman curls, but not too heavy.
Hmm.
I think it was 4 kilo Zotman curl, just a lot of volume, super slow on the eccentric, and then just time really. I was getting a lot of rest as well. I was going to bed at 9:30, not sleeping, but then I'd read a book, and then I'd get up at like 7, and because I wasn't training in the morning, go for a walk. It's just really just honored myself and gave myself space to be injured. And then after that, it was all good. Pain wasn't there anymore. Back to judo. And then at that time, I feel like my body adapted to the new stimulus and then picking up, getting thrown heaps, and it was just all good. I didn't get a flare up again.
Yeah. Now, what would have happened in the past? Maybe paint that picture.
Yeah. What would have happened in the past was just more training, harder training. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
And
much
then
just
you would
that
have,
harder training. And then, yeah, more injured, and I would have trained harder. And then I would have seen my Chinese medicine doctor who would have fixed everything temporarily and then felt great and then went back into training and trained hard again and then get re-injured. It was just a vicious cycle for me.
yeah, it's really like, I think a lot of people struggle with this, is myself included. Like this, I was literally having this internal dialogue with myself last week. I was doing my program, my lower back was starting to get a little bit cranky. And then I was like, oh, it's my squat day today. And I have to really be like, oh no, I don't have to do the program. It's like, it's so funny. Like, because in
Yeah,
the past, I'd be like, oh, it's squat day today. It's on the program, so I have to follow this. Then I would
yeah,
follow it. And I was like, well, I did 80 kilos last week, so I need to at least hit 80 this week. And
yeah,
then I was like, oh, wow, my back is destroyed now.
yeah,
Instead, what I did was single leg work, like
yeah,
single leg split squats,
yeah,
RDLs,
yeah,
and felt great like
yeah,
after it. And I'll probably go back squatting this week. So
yeah.
it's really,
I
it's just like
that
you
that
have to
reminds
keep,
me. Sorry, do you finish?
oh, go.
Um, I actually injured my back. Do you recall? It was like I think it was about a year ago.
Hmm.
I was thrown in judo and I was like a really weird tweak in my like lower back. And then what had happened, I went to do some Romanian deadlifts, and at this point I was lifting pretty heavy, and I was loading the barbell. I was like, should I be doing this? And I was like, no,
Mm.
I don't reckon. It's like, look, let me just do this one set, and then pull up, boom, oh fuck, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it
Yeah.
was really funny because I've never injured my back before. And then I remember speaking to Brad and then just like putting in the notes there in our chat on Everfit. And he's like, well, injuring your back is like a rite of passage. So welcome.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's always, I think, with this, obviously there's acute injuries like someone knocks into you in your sport or a car accident or whatever, but
Mm,
90% of the time it's generally our own dumb mistakes that we
Yeah.
just should have backed off. And it's a constant thing you need to like like I just said, like this is still something that I need to really be checking myself with regularly. Um, let's let's finish up with like from a result standpoint, like where you are now, 2.5 years later, how have these results improved your quality of life? Like how are things better for you now versus to,
Mm,
2021, 2020 and before then?
that's a good question. I feel very capable and bulletproof, to be honest. Like, I mentioned to you, joined the SES and then did
Want to
like
tell
a
people what that is for
um
non-Australians?
state emergency service. So it's kind of like a search and rescue volunteer work. So after joining that, and I did like a land search course, and then when I was out there, I just had the feeling I'd be like, I feel so capable and bulletproof to just go out there and just save someone. It's not going to be me being like, oh, how's my ankle feeling today? Or, oh, do we have to kind of pick this person out? Is my elbow and my shoulder going to be okay? I just feel so capable and bulletproof. And also picking up new hobbies as well, like judo, and then the ice skating as well was such a big thing for me from my ankle injuries. My ankles are really bad. And just being like, yeah, if I'm just consistent, nothing can kind of stop me.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. And like it's a really cool pattern I'm seeing, like with um, when like you're saying, like you're really confident in yourself now, and now you're giving back to your community. Like for people who don't know, like it's a voluntary, SES is voluntary. Like so Matt's not getting paid or anything for it. He's doing that because he wants to be, part of the community, help the community. So now instead of it like being like he's not relying on people, now he's lifting people up, which I think is a massive thing. When you are capable and physically able, you can actually be, a higher, what's the right word? Give more back to the community, be more supportive to those who need
Yeah.
people as well. And you're not like getting people to look after you, you're looking after
Mm,
them. So that's
yeah.
huge, man.
Yeah. I agree.
Awesome, bro. Well, yeah, dude, like I'm just it's so cool to talk to you about this stuff as well, for you to share it, because I know there's a lot of guys out there who are like, in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, and they're like, I, I feel very broken. That's the way I
Mm,
felt. I
mm.
remember on our last call as well, you were like, oh, I was pretty sure I was going to have to get surgery. Like that was
Oh
basically
yeah.
the
Oh
trajectory,
yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep. For sure. That was the trajectory for my ankle for sure.
Yeah. All right, my man. Any last words you want to share with people? Any words of inspiration for, yeah, let's just say it is a guy and he's just constantly getting hurt and he's just like, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ,
Yeah.
what's next?
Yeah, just really learn how to be injured, give yourself space to be injured, and then it's gonna be sustainable long term. You're just gonna be so much more stronger if you just allow yourself to be injured. That's just the path. It's just the path. And also
Great.
you have to have a good coach. And Connor's a great coach.
Great, man. He wasn't paid for that, guys, so just so you all know. Awesome, dude. Great to have you as a client, man. Awesome.